Hi, everybody, and welcome to our podcast, Thriving LDS Singles. So I am Kay and my co-host, Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
She's in a different place today. Next week, I'll be in a different place. So we're going to be moving around a little bit, but we're still going to be here.
Yes. So, Kay is actually, you're traveling for 6 weeks, right? So we get to say, where in Australia is Kay this week?
Yeah, that's right. Because I'm moving different states. So I will be around.
It should be
Maybe
fun.
Instead of just looking at pictures, I'll show you some real plants.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah. So today we thought we would talk about health. We've talked to, as Ty a couple of times and interviewed him about his journey from alcoholism to doing Ironman championships, which is massive change. But of course, the gospel teaches us how important health is and what things are good for us and what's not good for us. And a long time before it was common knowledge. So the basics of the word of wisdom that we all know is sort of the coffee, tea, alcohol, cigarettes. And none of us really argue those things anymore because they're all part of, well, no, maybe not the coffee and tea, maybe more, less so, but certainly the alcohol and cigarettes are no-nos in pretty well everywhere.
Yeah. There's a lot of debate, though, about coffee. 1 year, it's really good for you in the research, and the next year in the research, it's, oh, no, it's not as good as we thought. So, which is true of all physical things, right? In fact, I heard a story today about how you can't really rely on the research because wasn't it years ago we thought lobotomies were good for people? The research says. And then when I was born, the research said that breast milk was not good for kids. And so I was bottle fed. And then they figured out that was a really bad idea.
Yes, so research definitely. And I know in the, as sort of there was research saying cigarettes were bad for you, the cigarette companies were doing research showing that it was good for you. And, I always feel sorry, the people in the Second World War, the soldiers were actually given cigarettes. So many of them weren't addicted, but they were given it as part of their sort of their kit and
help them feel better.
Told it would help them with their nerves.
Yeah.
So, and we hear controversial stuff about coffee and tea, even sometimes, like, oh no, a glass of wine every day. And yet I read research the other day that said, no, even a glass is bad for you. Matter of fact, there was a bit of research a few years ago that took some of the top athletes and timed them on a 100-meter run. And then one glass of wine and timed them the next day, not straight after, the next day, and their times were less.
Yeah. I think there's more and more research now about alcohol saying it's not good for you. So
it's not good for you. It's not good for you one glass a day. It's not good for you with just once a week. It's like, come on, guys, let's stop.
Yeah.
When
not
you see
mention
research,
it's an addictive substance. So
it's an addictive substance. When you see research and then you find out it's been sponsored by the tobacco company, it's like, yeah, probably not the research to be listening to.
Yeah.
So
I always love to just go straight to the research. So to the websites, the PubMed resources and the college, university medical resources to see what's going on. But research, you can find one study that says yes and another study that says no, and you have to be good about looking at the study and seeing how valid their study was and how thorough their study was. But I will tell you, there's a few podcasters that I do really find valuable, and I'll put them in the Facebook group. One is the Huberman podcast, which is very popular. I think probably most people have heard of it. He's a neuroscientist, but he does a great job of synthesizing current research, making it understandable, and is very focused on, the basics of good healthcare, or your good taking care of your body, your mental, physical well-being. And so definitely look up Huberman. Another one is Ben Beekman. I think it's Beekman, but he is I think he's a biochemist, but he is at BYU, and his focus has been on um, diabetes and metabolic health. And he's provided, I feel like, some very good, sound information based on good research studies that have not been sponsored by, all the wrong people. And and then there's a couple others. I'll put them in the Facebook group. But definitely, if you've never heard of Huberman or haven't listened to Huberman podcasts, he is awesome. They're very long and they can go kind of deep, which I'm all about the research and the knowledge. And then both of them have Instagrams. Ben Bickman's Instagram is very short, little bites, and is really good. I found a lot of value in that. And he is LDS actually. So that just adds another layer. But I think those are good resources when it comes to research. But back to the scriptures, we do have the scriptures, and we already do have some good guidance, I think, in the scriptures that makes just good common sense as far as our physical health. And we talked to Ty a little bit about treating our bodies as a temple. And I do think that's a really important concept, because I think the goal, at least, Kay, tell me your perspective, because I know you have some strong feelings about this too, but is really the goal is to take care of the structure or the housing that stores our spirit, and to keep it as healthy as possible so that we can thrive. And that means mentally, physically, and of course spiritually. And if we're not taking care of the physical, knowing from my own personal experience and eating sugar and feeling hungover the next morning, I know that I'm not at my best when I'm not committed to my health. So
Yeah, absolutely. Health is one of my passions.
yeah.
I was a personal trainer for 12 years, so it's definitely one of my passions. And yeah, it's the word of wisdom is the basics. It said this is what's given for the weak. This is like the basic level.
Mm-hmm.
And the point I think they're trying to make in that is anything that takes away from your spirit is not good for you. And so, sugar is definitely one that,
Yeah.
you're not going to find in your Temple Recommend interview, which
Yeah.
is probably handy for most people. But, things
Thank
like,
goodness.
thank goodness,
A
yeah,
lot of
that's
us
right.
wouldn't be going.
But that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it's good for you. It's
No.
like, because it's all about exactly that there's spirits in this body. And so, anything that affects our spiritual things. So getting tired,
Yeah.
having an
And being not getting enough sleep affects your mental health so significantly, as well as your physical health. A big component of weight loss is getting enough sleep.
yeah,
So
that's right.
trying to lose weight.
I remember a number of years ago now, but a guy that I was working with on stage, and he was saying that no one should get a Temple Recommend if they're overweight. And I was like,
Yeah,
whoa.
it's super controversial, but you can be just as addicted to sugar, and it can run your life as much as alcohol. And it's
Yeah.
actually a more addictive substance. So
Oh,
if we're being run by our craving instead of by our spiritual health, then
mm.
we definitely need to take a step back and look at it and try
So
to make some
anything.
adjustments.
So that's right. That would be, to me, that's what the word of wisdom really means. Any substance
Mhm.
that is running you instead of you running it
Yeah.
is not good for your spirit, because that's the whole point of this earthly experience, is to learn to control the physical body.
Yeah, I think that is a significant part of overcoming the natural man. There's no question.
Yeah. And so whether it's and each person's going to have a different thing. And I know as a personal trainer,
Yeah.
people would say, well, what do I need to eat to lose weight? You actually
Personally,
need to listen to your own body, because for some, bread is really bad and
yeah,
some bread's not a problem, Sugar, definitely, I'd say for just about everybody, is a problem.
I agree.
Um, and so all the sugary drinks, but all the sugary drinks, Kim,
I
that
don't
are
drink the
no
sugary
sugar
ones,
drink.
but I drink the ones that are just as bad, which are the artificial sweetener ones.
Yeah.
Anything that has chemicals in it and is not natural is just really hard on our bodies. So the more we
Mm.
can get away from any kind of chemical substitute, obviously, is better. I
So
know,
would we, that's right. We clean the temple all the time, you know, that
yeah,
every, at the end of every sort of shift, they,
meticulously down to the little crevices in the doorknobs. I mean, seriously focused on keeping it beautiful and clean. And we all benefit from that whenever we go. And we should treat
mm,
our bodies the same way.
that's right. If we honestly believe our body's a temple, then, you know, we shouldn't be putting dirty stuff in.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's so
can you
true.
imagine if someone came to the temple in their work boots and tracked mud all the way through it? It's like,
Yeah, that makes me cringe.
yeah, you know, we all wear our white clothes, and you know, they don't want you to wear your white clothes out and then come into the temple in your white clothes, partly to not bring in the dirt.
Yeah,
That, you
our
know,
shoes, we
yeah,
put them on when we get there. Yeah,
yeah. So, you know, if you're going to take that analogy, then let's take it to our body. Let's not put the dirt in our body.
yeah, I
Let's treat our
agree.
body with respect. Look after it.
Yeah, it's so there's a couple things like rules that I've adopted or lived by, but you mentioned, and we talked about this with Ty. I think the number one thing is tuning into our bodies, like really being willing. And I will tell you, when I first started trying to pay attention to my physical health and well-being, because I've always had a weight issue, like all very ups and downs for my whole entire life. And it's not because I don't love to be active, because I'm very active. I love to be outdoors and hiking and doing all those active things. It's my eating that is the big deal because I'm an emotional eater. But but when I was really trying to tune into that, one of the first things I tried to do was a body scan, which is just a mental exercise of sitting quietly and starting at your toes and just going through your whole entire body. Can I feel my toes? Can I feel my big toe, my next through all 5 toes? Can I feel my feet? Picturing feeling my ankles. Well, because I had been in trauma for so long and for so many years of my life, I had dissociated myself from my physical body. And doing that body scan was almost impossible for me. I couldn't do it. I had to do my own emotional healing work in order to just get to the point where I could sit and attune into my body and how it was feeling in every little piece, every little muscle, every toe, my calves, my knees, all the way up through to my head. So I think that's a really good exercise to start doing just to learn how to really tune into your body and to listen to our bodies, because I think it can be a very spiritual experience. I think tuning in is and quieting ourselves just in an effort to focus on what is going on in our body can help us become more spiritually attuned as well. I don't know, have you had experiences with that? Or, I
I think,
mean, it is a
yes,
big part of meditation.
that's right. And, you know, what we tend to think of meditation as sort of like that woo-woo thing, but it's not. It's part of our gospel. We
Yeah.
just might call it pondering or
Yes.
being silent, or we might have slightly different words, but we're always encouraged to be still,
Yeah.
which is what meditation is. So just because it might have a bit of a, you know, a woo-woo type connotation,
Yeah.
it's whenever we pray, we're supposed to be still and listen. You don't
Yeah.
talk to someone, ask questions, and then just run off. You sit and listen to see if there's some answers.
Yeah.
And that is meditation. And the temple has a lot of, the actual physical temple has a lot of times where you can sit and just contemplate.
Yeah.
Um,
It's true.
and that is meditation. And so looking at our bodies in the same way and hearing what our body is saying, because it is telling us things.
Yeah.
And it does tell us what foods work for us and what don't.
Yeah.
Coffee makes me go, "Ugh." Like,
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive to the caffeine. But soft drinks, yeah, there's a massive amount of sugar in soft drinks. And if you're drinking, and I don't know what you've got in America, we have a V. Do you have Vs? Like it's a hyper.
We have energy drinks. They're
Yeah,
very
that's an
popular
energy
and
drink.
dangerous.
Yeah, so we just call it
And I'm
Vs.
guilty. I'm guilty.
Yeah. But if you're saying, oh, I have to have one of those to up my energy,
Mhm.
then you're actually saying, I need a drug to push my body.
Yeah, it's the
And the
caffeine.
minute you're saying that, you're knowing that you're not honoring your body.
Yeah,
That
I
the
agree.
minute you say that, so whether it's I need the chocolate bar to rev me up, or I need the energy drink to rev me up,
Yeah,
like they don't fit with treating our body like a temple.
right. Right. And if we've designed our life in such a way that we need to drink energy drinks to sustain ourselves to make it through, maybe it's time to sit back and really reevaluate what's going on in your life and what do you need to carve out?
Mm.
Because,
So
we
then you
can't
looked at that
structure our
sleep one.
life to continue to
Yeah.
push ourselves like that. Yeah, there's
And that's,
important
we
life.
forget that the word of wisdom is not just those 4 substances.
Yeah.
There's actually a whole bunch more to it.
Yes.
And sleep is one of them. And I actually had the quote, Doctrine and Covenants 88, 124, and now I've lost it. Of course.
While you're finding it, another thing that I've learned tuning into my body is it's a Japanese, the Blue Zones. If you've ever read any of the Blue Zones material, really good feedback on research and studies and they call it the Blue Zones because they're areas within the world where they seem to be happier, healthier, thriving people. And it happens to be, maybe in ocean areas or whatever. So they call it the Blue Zones. But one of the practices spoken of in some of the Blue Zones books is hara hachibu, which is eating till you're 80% full. So don't eat, because you know how we all feel when we're stuffed. We can't move. Nothing feels good in that state. And we kind of live in a world of gluttony. There's so much available to us. And
Yeah.
so just learning to practice to stop at 80%, because you feel better. You feel like you can still move and walk around and participate in things. And so that's another practice that I've really tried to embrace and adopt, is just tuning into, how do I feel? Am I 20% full? Because typically, if I'm eating to be stuffed, it's an emotional thing.
It's an emotional thing. And so that tuning in and listening to your body, am I really hungry? And that's a question I ask myself. And
Yeah.
because 80% of the time you're probably thirsty.
Yes. Yeah. Drink.
And
Water.
the best drink to drink is water. Whether you go water or water or whichever way you say it, it doesn't matter.
It's still the same.
It's still the same. The herbal teas are fine, and I think we get also, if you've got some leaves of peppermint or lemongrass or something and you put that in water, the technical term is a tisane. So that's not the tea we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about tea that's made of a particular plant, the black tea. But the Prophet has clarified that, like the green tea and the white tea is the same. So those leaves we're leaving alone. But if you're using peppermint or lemongrass or chamomile, they're actually okay because they're herbs. And we're told herbs are good for us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's more almost kind of speaks to the addictive substance, like the caffeine, because the ones you mentioned,
caffeine in
the
it.
white tea, the green tea, and the black tea all have caffeine in them.
All have caffeine. That's right.
Yeah.
And so whereas peppermint, lemongrass, chamomile,
Yeah, they don't.
They have other good qualities. So
Yeah.
So we need to like differentiate that. But so the quote I was looking up was about the sleep. And so, yeah, if you're needing that sort of rev up of caffeine, whether it's coming from Coca-Cola or chocolate's quite high in caffeine as well.
Yes,
and
it's true.
And the teas. So if you're feeling like I need something, and sugar, of course, is also, it feels like it gives you an up. It actually gives you a massive up and then a massive down. But So the Doctrine and Covenants 88 talks about the sleep, and it says we're counseled to go to bed early, which is, again, lucky that Temple recommends not.
You'd be having trouble with that one, huh?
Yeah, retire early. So obviously, if you go to bed early, it says that you then may not be weary and you can arise early. It's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That our bodies and minds may be invigorated. Be weary and arise early, that our bodies and minds may be invigorated. If
Yeah.
you wake up early enough, you've got time to read your scriptures. You've got time for the pondering meditation. And then you've also got time for your exercise, which, of course, is the other scripture about run and not be weary, walk and not faint. We are meant to move. Our bodies need to move from our knowledge of bodies now. And the scriptures didn't talk much about it because no one needed to be told to walk.
Right. It was the way of life then. You're so right about that. On Huberman, one of his primary focus areas is the eyes. And he talks about the fact that we're designed so that when we're walking, you know how your eyes are naturally kind of keeping track of the area so you don't fall. So as you're walking forward or running, your eyes are always moving like this to scan the environment. And that's why I don't know if you've ever heard of EMDR or some of the therapies where they talk about eye movements. He said that's why one of the things that probably causes those to work is because naturally when our eyes are doing this, it calms our nervous system. And that's why walking and running can also be so good for your mental health. So we are naturally built. That's part of our innate biology, is that we should be moving and walking, and
we should be
that's how we're
moving.
designed. Yeah.
And then the same passage, the 88:124, says, cease to be unclean.
Interesting.
And so I don't think that applies just to our inside. So that's the inside of our body,
Cleansing
and
the
the
body.
outside.
Yeah.
Our
I haven't done a body cleanse for a very long time, but I do know there's a lot of value in it. And a lot of people say that's kind of what fasting is too, is cleansing the body of all the impurities, giving it a restart. And I know there's a lot of research now on fasting, but it is a bit of a spiritual and physical cleanse.
Yeah, we were debating earlier, weren't we, whether we'd discuss
Yeah.
fasting or not. Because Kim and I both struggle with fasting. We will admit that's not one of our strengths, okay? But it is a gospel principle, and also it's a worldly principle. So, the idea of not eating one day a month is actually seen scientifically as a good thing. So we do it for our spirit. And I think that's what its main strength
is. Yeah.
But from the physical point of view, it's actually good for us too. So, and then the cleanliness, obviously hopefully pretty well everybody's listening to us would know that washing everything and keeping clean and washing our hands and stuff, all that's really important.
And it does speak to the not putting a lot of chemicals in our body, because our liver is cleansing those on a regular basis. So, cleansing is what we ingest as much as it is how we take care of our physical bodies. So both.
Absolutely. So keeping your environment chemical free as much as possible. You do not need air fresheners. You just need to open the window, except in Salt Lake right now, huh?
Yeah, Salt Lake right now. I just pulled in about an hour ago. I've been driving all day. I know I look like it too, but because I've been up since 4 a.m. But there's forest fires in Idaho and somewhere else, and the wind has blown it in. I'm maybe 5 blocks from the mountains, the Wasatch Mountains, and I can't barely see them because the air is so bad here right now. So it's very sad.
Well, obviously, that's not something you can personally do something about, but the value
Go
of
back
fresh
to
air.
Arizona.
Yeah, go back to Arizona where the air is fresh. We know that fresh air is really important for us, and the environments where air pollution's bad is bad for your health. So the governments are taking some responsibility for changing some of that, but obviously in our own little homes, we can make sure that the air in our homes are fresh. So please stop spraying chemicals around everywhere. It's like,
Yeah.
don't add to it.
Yeah. Well, and many things that are outlawed in your neck of the woods, Kay, are still okay here, sadly. So,
Yes, yes. I always get surprised by that stuff. It's like,
yeah.
oh, don't do that. It's like, you know, keep the chemicals out of the systems. Yeah. But also the decluttering, keeping our homes clean. When you walk into the temple and you think, oh, this is a peaceful place, part of it is it's very clean and
Yeah.
it's very tidy. What if we did that at home as well? Like we
Yeah.
kept our environments decluttered and keep them clean, and we don't need anywhere near the amount of stuff in our lives.
Yeah. It's true. We do have
I
an
remember
awful lot of
a
stuff.
young mother asking me one time about, how did you manage with so many kids in a small house? And I said, oh, it was really easy. We didn't have very many clothes or toys.
Yeah. We didn't have enough money to pay for all the clutter.
That's right. If your children have 1 or 2 sets of good clothes, a couple of school clothes, and a set of play clothes, it doesn't take up much room. You have a pair of sandals, a pair of runners, and a pair of school shoes. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We
How
don't
much do we
realize what we
need?
think. Yeah, our definition of need has definitely changed over the years. Scarily in the wrong direction, probably.
Yeah. So, although that sounds like it's a long way from health, it's not, because the more clutter, the more your brain is sort of distracted, the more you're
Really
um,
impacts your mental health. There's no
it
question.
impacts your mental health. And all of this might, the research shows around physical health, but it's all mental health as well.
Yeah.
Um, all the research that shows that chemicals can be bad for your mental health, sugar can be bad for your mental health, chemicals of, like the alcohol definitely is bad for your mental health, like,
Yes.
all of those things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but
And just eating a diet of more vegetables and
oh, I've heard that somewhere. Where was it? It's like,
more vegetables, less
oh,
carbs, less sugar.
yeah,
Fiber is good. They're learning more and more about the value of fiber, but that's typically found in vegetables
in
and
vegetables.
fruits. Yeah, and natural fruits are, you do have to be careful, but are much better for us than any other kinds of carbs.
And that the fruit one is quite good, because it's like if we would ate the fruit in season.
Yeah, yeah. And
It,
there's so many amazing, delicious fruits now, like such variety.
yeah, now I get to brag because I live where lots of the really nice fruits are grown. So I get a lot of fruits in season all the time. There's some really nice ones that we have that you probably haven't even heard of, like custard apple.
Ooh, I've never heard of that. That sounds
Yeah,
good.
custard apple. It's about this big. It's
Wow.
got a lot of seeds in it, but it tastes like stewed apple and custard combined.
Yum. Yeah.
Yeah,
You need to bring
it's
me
really
one of those. Oh, it's probably against the law, huh?
probably against the law. Yeah.
We're not supposed to
And
cross
it's a
fruit.
soft fruit, so it won't travel. We also have chocolate pudding fruit. It literally tastes like
Wow.
chocolate pudding. Yeah, so we get some really nice ones in that, because I'm in the tropics. So it's,
That's amazing.
and
Well,
then
if you're on your road trip, if you get exposed to some of those, show us what they look like. We want to see them.
kiwi fruit though, don't you? Do you
Yes,
know?
kiwi. I love kiwi. I love figs. My little girl used to love kiwis. And we used to peel them. Do you peel them? Because we would
Oh,
peel.
yeah, don't eat the furry stuff.
No, we would peel them and she could eat them much faster than we could keep them peeled for her. They were her favorite.
I don't peel them. I just cut them into quarters and eat them like you do an
An
orange.
orange. Yeah. Yeah. So fruits are okay. Even fats. So I'll tell this incredibly personal story where, as I was on having been on my health journey over this last little while, I've really reduced the calories I've eating. I told you about the harahachibu, focusing on vegetables and protein, good proteins. But for whatever reason, it wasn't really intentional. I was also reducing the fats in my diet. And I think that's has significantly contributed to my hair thinning. My hair is really thinned. It's had me stressed out. And so now I've been trying to beef up the good fats like avocado and butter is okay, but I don't eat as much butter, but good fats like avocados and
Olive
things like
oil,
that. Olive
olives.
oil. Yes, yes, olives. And it has started to help me. Hopefully
Good.
it'll turn things around. But yeah, fats are very necessary in the diet. If you're going to err on in indulging in something, go for the fats, not for the carbs, because you'll be much better off for sure.
So, avocado's easy for you to get.
Yes. Yeah, we have
Oh, good.
avocados everywhere. So avocados are very easy for us to get.
Because they're another Queensland thing. Actually, the other good fat is macadamia nuts. Do
Oh
you have
yeah,
them?
nuts are very good for us too.
But they're Queensland stuff, and so
Yeah.
we have our chapel has mango trees and macadamia trees.
Oh
Yeah, so
wow,
it's like
that's
on the
awesome. That's
on the
beautiful.
and so the macadamias are quite fun because they're ripe when they drop, and they're a dark brown shell, and you have to have a special machine to crack that shell.
Oh wow.
We call it, because Australians, contract words, and so we call it a maca cracker.
I love that.
Bit of a side issue, but macadamia nuts are one of the good fats, and so for us, they're actually quite easy to get, and they're a really nice nut to add to things.
Yeah.
Just as a side note, peanuts aren't nuts. Just by the way, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't eat a lot of peanuts, and there is a lot of controversy just about legumes and beans and if they're okay or not okay. But I
Well, and
think,
that's where I think people need to listen, because
yes.
the word of wisdom will tell you wheat is good for the body, and yet many of us are finding wheat's not good for the body.
Yeah.
Listen to your body.
Right. Right. The
Um,
other thing about listening to our bodies, sorry, I just don't want to forget this. I've thought about it a whole bunch of times, is as you as you are in different ages, your body needs different things. So
mm,
maybe what worked for you in your 20s is not the same thing. You really have to be listening to your body all the time, because it might not be what's working for you when you're going through menopause or
mm.
perimenopause, or, all those other things come into play. And so it is really important to listen to your body and tune into the age that you are and be cognizant of that.
Yeah, very wise, and that certainly goes with the amount of food.
Yeah.
What I watch, I've got two teenagers that live with me. What I watch them consume is just incredible, and they're only tiny little things, and they consume probably twice what I consume. But
Yeah.
um,
True.
that's fine. It's working for them. It would not work for me. So listen to your bodies. And so I guess that's sort of our main thing, even though this sort of started off as a bit of a talk about the word of wisdom. So I think the word of wisdom itself is one of the commandments that we're following in our church, and it's part of the requirements for our temple recommend.
Yeah.
But the word of wisdom, is that we should be extending that for all of these things.
Mhm.
It's the actual, just the four items are just, and it says in there, this is the basic law. This is the very bottom.
Yeah.
We're really expected to be doing much more than that.
And I do think there is an element of just learning how to be disciplined that connects very closely with our spiritual growth. I mean, it is part of that curbing the natural man and just disciplining ourselves in all areas of life and moderation. Does it actually say, I know we say moderation in all things, but does it actually, I don't know if that is the actual words in the Doctrine and Covenants, but definitely something that we should all learn to practice. And the more disciplined we are in all areas of our life, I think the more empowered we become. We're not being run by our cravings and our desires, and we're able to focus on the things that we really want to and desire to learn and grow. So that's what I would
So
say.
perfect. So thank you, Kim, for making time today to have this discussion about health.
You.
Both Kim and I, it's a real passion. And if you ever want any more help from either of us, please contact us, and we would love to talk with you further about that.
Yeah.
And of course, if you like our podcast, make sure you press the like button.
Yeah,
Thank
and if you want to support us even more, you can go to our Patreon site and support us through Patreon. Or if you want one-on-one help, as Kay said, Kay has a website and the link is in the description. So if you ever want more specialized attention, you can certainly get that too.
Yes. Well, thank you, Kim. Thank you for being a part of this today. And we will talk to you all again next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Kay. Can't wait to see your travels.